Thank you. I would like to reconvene the meeting from closed session and call this meeting to order for the City Council meeting of June 1st, 2021. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll and make an announcement about the assessing the meeting?
Councilmember Cordero? Just a moment. Madam Mayor? Madam Mayor? Here. Madam Mayor, if you wouldn't mind muting your phone if you can, or I can try to mute you, and unless we have participation, possibly. You got it? I think she's muted. Okay. Okay. Councilmember Cordero?
Here.
Councilmember Escobedo?
Here.
Councilmember Soto? Mayor Pro Tem Waterfield?
Here.
And Madam Mayor Patino? Here. Thank you. We were just getting an echo from your speaker. Okay. Okay. In order to participate in the City Council meeting virtually, please register to speak using the link on the agenda under public comment or call 1-669-900-9128 and use webinar ID 867-8981-1264. To raise your hand to speak on a particular agenda item, please use the raise hand button in the Zoom meeting portal. If you're using a phone, please press *9 on your keypad to raise your hand to speak. When it is your time to speak, your microphone will be unmuted for the time allotted by Mayor Pro Tem Waterfield and will be muted upon completion of your comments. I'd just like to add that Madam Mayor is participating via teleconference.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
You can't listen to that all night.
Okay. Madam Mayor? There you go. Thank you. We need to have you muted because the sound feedback is really bad. So we'll reach out to you if you've, when we have breaks, if you have comments.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With our city attorney, Mr. Watson, would you please give us the closed session report?
Yes, Madam Mayor Pro Tem and Council, with respect to the conference for legal counsel, instructions were provided to the attorney on the no further report is necessary.
Thank you. As there are no proclamations this evening, the first item on our agenda is a public comment period. Madam Clerk, would you please read the criteria for the public comment portion of the agenda?
This time is reserved to accept comments from the public on consent agenda items, closed session items, or matters not otherwise scheduled on the printed agenda this evening. Unless otherwise directed by Madam Mayor Pro Tem, speakers will have 3 minutes to comment. Direction to staff may be given. However, state law does not allow action to be taken on matters not on the printed agenda this evening. And I won't repeat the reminder as I've already just stated it, but I do have one hand raised for a public speaker, Madam Pro Tem Mayor, and that's Terry Zuniga.
Okay, please set the timer for 3 minutes.
Go ahead, Terry.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Patino and City Council members. Thank you so much for the opportunity to address you this evening. I just wanted to take a minute to thank Councilmember Mike Cordero and City Manager Jason Stillwell for coming out to the retirement celebration of Bruce Corsa, the former president of SEIU 620. He celebrated 20 years of service, dedicated service to the union, and so we had a little get-together for him, and Councilmember Cordero, on behalf of the council, presented him with a proclamation, and we just really appreciate their recognition of his work and his efforts for our union members that work with the city, and for him and Jason spending their Saturday afternoon with us. That was really appreciated. I'd also like to take the opportunity to introduce our new executive director. We had several applications, probably half a dozen applications that we interviewed for, great people, both from local area and out of the area. And I'm proud to say that we hired the best candidate for the position, who was actually a SEIU already staff person. Daryl Scheck. So Daryl's here with me this evening and would like to say a few words. Thank you so much again, Councilmember Cordero and Jason Stillwell, for coming out. We appreciate it, and thank you, Council, for the proclamation.
Thank you, Terry. Go ahead, Daryl.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mayor Patino and council members. And I want to extend my gratitude to the city for the thoughtful resolution that was provided in honor of Bruce Corsaw's 20 years of service with SEIU. Our Santa Maria base of operations wouldn't exist without his foresight and the relationships he built here. And I won't presume to speak on behalf of Bruce, but I will say that I know he enjoyed his time representing many city employees over the years as a field rep and as the executive director prior to retiring. And I want to thank you for your service to the city and sincerely hope that we can continue to partner and realize great accomplishments together. Our members are the backbone of the city to provide needed services for the enhancement of the lives of all residents. And as the incoming executive director, I continue to look forward to working with all of you, much as I did when I was a field representative for those that we represent here. And we have a good base of familiarity to start from, and I look forward to continuing the productive relationship that we generally have had with the city since the late 1990s. And I want to wish you all a great afternoon and evening.
Thank you, Daryl. And I know we all would like to wish you good luck, and we know you'll do a great job for SEIU. Mr. Cordero would like to make a comment.
Yeah, on behalf of Jason and I, we discussed it after the gathering, and we both had a great time, and it was very appropriate, very well done to celebrate the character of Bruce Corsaw, and it was a true honor and pleasure to be there and hear all the great things about him, and we thank you for letting us go.
Thank you. That concludes the public comment portion of this agenda. Before we move on, Mr. Stillwell, do you wish to make any comments? Thank you. Moving on to the consent calendar, Madam Clerk, would you please read item number 3?
Routine items are presented for City Council approval without discussion as a single agenda item in order to expedite the meeting. The consent calendar is approved by roll call vote with one motion. These items are discussed only on the request of council members.
Thank you. Does anyone have any items they wish to pull for discussion?
I do.
Okay, which item would that be?
I would like to request the 3L
Okay.
item to be.
3L is approving an agreement with Romnia Construction for the award of bid 2021-02 Santa Maria Regional Landfill Cell 1 Extension Composition Liner Construction Project.
No,
sorry.
the
No, 3L.
the Pacific Petroleum.
Yeah.
I'm terribly sorry. Approving an agreement with Utility Connection and service outside of city boundaries with Pacific Petroleum California to permit connection for service of potable domestic water at 1615 East Betaravia Road. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Did you have a question?
Oh yeah, I have two questions. One would be if we by starting this contract, will there be any potential, can we basically serve this extra business organization inside our city?
Yeah, no, we have the Utilities Director, Shad Springer, here who can answer that question, and if you have a subsequent one as well. And this item did come to the City Council at the initial phase of the request, in which time we did identify that there was water available, which had the council's approval to proceed. But Shad can explain the steps.
Thank you, Mr. Stillwell. The applicant in this case came to the city. Their existing water well on the site, they were cited by Santa Barbara County Health as it was exceeding drinking water standards for nitrate. So their drinking water on the site is contaminated past the drinking water level. So they contacted the city regarding this. I spoke with Mr. Stillwell about it, and we discussed it. That particular site, over a course of a number of years, over a decade, has gotten fire protection from the city. We happen to have a transmission main in the general area. Based on that, we brought the information to the city council in order to get approval to connect to the city system. Because it is outside our service area and outside the city limits, we would have to go get LAFCO approval. We brought an item to the city council. Mr. Ng with Community Development requested city council's approval to request LAFCO's approval to allow this customer to connect to the city as a customer. Following council's approval of that action, Mr. Ng took the item to LAFCO where they granted approval allowing this connection, primarily based on the public safety aspect of it for the drinking water. Subsequent to all of those approvals, we negotiated with Pacific Petroleum to allow them to connect to our system for potable. If the city council approves that recommended action tonight, we will then work with Pacific Petroleum on exactly how the connection will work. They would get an encroachment permit through the Public Works Department so that we're sure that the connection meets the city standards, at which point then they would actually begin to take water from the city. All of those items are based on their demand here is relatively small in the big scope of how much water the city has available to meet the need. So we do have the availability for that, and that was demonstrated in the previous actions by council and then also the discussion at LAFCO.
And we are already doing that to another cooling business down the road from Pacific Petroleum.
And
Please.
knowing that there's this issue with the well they already have,
Yes.
is there any potential issue that might come out that might affect us in the system if we follow this service?
Yeah, their issue on the site is related to the amount of nitrates that are in the existing aquifer. So when they pump them out, they're pulling those nitrates with it. So there is not the opportunity that they would contaminate our system.
Yeah.
We will require that they have a backflow device so that they cannot push water back into our system, thereby they couldn't contaminate our system. Is that your question?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay,
Then I'm
fantastic.
good.
If there's no other items to pull, can I get a motion for approving the consent calendar?
Moved.
Second.
Madam Mayor, or Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Councilmember Escobedo?
Aye.
Madam Mayor Patino? Aye. And Madam Pro Tem Waterfield?
Aye. Next, we have a presentation. Madam Clerk, will you please read the title?
The City Council will receive a presentation on activities planned for Downtown Fridays in 2021 by Ed Carcare, event organizer for the Downtown Fridays.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council members, city officials. Am I allowed to take the muzzle off, or do I keep it on?
You can take it off.
Oh, thank God.
There you go.
Thank you. Even though I love the Eagles, I'd still rather have it off. Oh, I'm doing a PowerPoint, great. Please. At your leisure. Hopefully, as you know, we started Downtown Fridays this past Friday. We had about 2 days' notice, and I'm happy to report it was fabulous. I didn't think we'd be able to pull it off. I didn't think Santa Maria would show up in force. With 2 days' notice, and the weather, the high that day was 63 degrees. By the time we were out there and the event started, it was 59. And Santa Marians are kind of weather wimps. So if it's below 60, they don't show up well.
That's right.
So this went well. We were pleased on a holiday weekend, 2 days' notice, the weather working against us. Every vendor showed up, and Santa Maria and the Central Coast showed up. And that's without live bands because of the protocols we have to follow now. We didn't have a kids zone. Our temporary food facility, the smaller mom and pops, barbecues, about 10 of them can't come out. And we weren't able to set up tables and chairs, which is kind of a highlight for Downtown Fridays. Without all of that, we still probably had 1,500 people show up on Friday night, and most of them stayed out there through the night. As you see, we also, this year, we have the city stage, thank you. That looks so much better than the farm truck that we put out there that carries the mud in with it.
Yes.
I love this look, so we really appreciate this coming out. When we put a band up there, it's gonna look fabulous.
Oh, my gosh.
We're hoping that bands will come back once the protocols start lifting. We can have the kids zone again, put out the chairs, and get the temporary food facility people back. And actually, 2 weeks from now, each of you have probably heard that the Santa Maria High School girls soccer team won CIF 3-0. I talked to the coach today. We're going to bring them out on the 18th of June, and we're hoping that some of you would come out and help us honor them
Absolutely,
out there.
absolutely.
For those of you that don't, I will talk bad about you on all 3 radio stations. So please come out and join us. We could use your help, and these young ladies have done a lot along with the coaches on what they've been able to pull off. I thank you for the city and everybody for getting behind this. We do appreciate it. It's our 5th year, and it's, I think for Santa Maria, it's something we desperately needed, and it's about time that we've gotten our acts together and put this on for our community to come to. Any questions, anything anybody has? October 29th.
Wow.
Every Friday, 5:30 to 8:30, unless it rains. And we'll make that call that day.
Do you have any bands booked?
Not yet,
Not
because
yet.
I don't know when.
Yeah.
And the details are a little fuzzy after June 15th, what it actually means. Are we allowed to do that? I'm waiting for word from the county.
Another very important question. Will you have the beer and wine court?
Unfortunately, that's one thing that's going to go away, and it has nothing to do with COVID.
Yeah.
We've lost money every single night for 4 straight years.
Really?
It's a lost leader, and I didn't mind it, but now the insurance, the security for it has gone through the roof. I don't know if that's a COVID thing, but this year it's gotten crazy. We just decided, unless any of you would willing to come work for free and pour beer, we volunteers.
Well, that would be fun.
That's every Friday for 26 straight weeks, though. Any other questions? I appreciate everybody and what you've done to help us.
Oh my gosh, Ed, we thank you for everything you've done for the last 5 years to put Santa Maria on the map, especially on Friday nights, and you just brought the people out to do great things and enjoy themselves, and we're going to wish you another traditional, successful year. Thank you so much to you and your committee.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Oh, Ed.
Sorry. Walk away, Carlos.
No, I just want to add, as many of you might know already, I used to help you coordinate Downtown Fridays, and that was a great experience, learning experience, getting to know the community and see the potential of bringing the community together. So thank you for keeping it going. I know it's tough, more with COVID and other stuff that were shut down. So I'm really happy to see Downtown Friday coming back, and looking forward to stop by and get some esquites or some tacos there soon. Thank you.
And I do have pictures of Carlos picking up trash with me on Friday night after dark in a dark parking lot, if you ever want to see it, what it looks like.
That's great.
Fun.
That's great. Thank you, Carlos.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Next, we have a public hearing. Madam Clerk, would you please read the title?
The City Council will consider repealing portions of Ordinance Number 2019-04, amending multiple sections of Title 12 of the Santa Maria Municipal Code for the following: defining employee housing and adding employee housing as an allowed use in select residential districts.
Okay, and the staff report is to be made by the Director of Community Development, Mr. Ng.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the City Council. This is a report on the repeal of the Employee Housing Ordinance. As some of you may remember, back in 2018, we did a series of workshops with members of the ag community, with residents, and this culminated into public hearings before the Planning Commission, City Council, and ultimately in June 2019, the city adopted Ordinance Number 2019-04, which included the Employee Housing Ordinance and some other amendments to Title 12. And since then, what the ordinance did was permit employee housing in the multifamily zones, but in the single-family zones required a conditional use permit. Since the adoption of the Employee Housing Ordinance, no conditional use applications have been submitted. And other than ministerial permits, no other measures of the Employee Housing Ordinance have been enforced. I think we continue to see employee housing go into existing motels and hotels, and we are seeing ag employers find other ways to house their employees. So considering this, the city recommends repeal of portions of Ordinance Number 2019-04, containing the Employee Housing Ordinance. The formal recommendation is that the City Council introduce for the first reading and continue to the next meeting for the second reading and adoption an ordinance repealing portions of Ordinance 2019-04 containing the Employee Housing Ordinance in Title 12 of the Santa Maria Municipal Code. This concludes staff's report. Welcome any questions you may have.
Thank you. At this moment, Mr. Ng, I would like to turn this over to our city attorney, Tom Watson, because I want him to let our constituents know why this came back to us.
Well, as the council is aware, there was a great level of public interest in the original adoption of this ordinance. Candidly, we were concerned that there was going to be a greater level of use of the conditional use permit, and what we found was that the ag employers clearly heard the community, that they did not want to have employee housing in residential areas. As a result, while we made the adoption of the ordinance effective, because the cooperation of our constituent employers, we've made a determination that it is no longer needed, and since it has never been enforced or a permit requested, it's not a necessary item for us to continue on our books.
Okay, I get that, but can I say the other part of the story, that we never would have brought it back here? It never would have been an agenda item if it had not been brought to our attention by a higher authority saying that we had to do it.
There was always a concern that there may have been some challenges to this. While there has never been litigation challenged, there certainly has been some questions as to its ongoing activity and the necessity for it in light of other housing determinations by both the state and federal agencies. So in light of the totality, and again, for the purposes that there's no real activity under this ordinance, there's no reason to maintain it on our books.
Thank you. Thank you. Do any council members have questions?
Yes.
Councilmember Cordero?
Thank you. I happen to think that we as a council and Santa Maria at large as a community, and particularly the farming community, all came together and did what I think was a great job at trying to do something that had no real guidelines. We invented this resolution ourselves, and I think we did a great job. And I think had it not been for the federal government coming back and suggesting that we could suffer litigation for this, we would have never brought it back. And I think that there are members of the public that Ms. Waterfield is alluding to that are thinking that we sat up here and decided, well, we don't want to do this anymore and we're just going to cancel it out, and the heck with the idea about the people that are in their concerns for the neighborhood. There's nothing further from the truth, at least from my chair. And if I didn't have this threat of litigation from the federal government, I wouldn't even entertain a thought about repealing this. But I don't believe we have a choice in the matter, and the general public needs to know that. There was an article, excuse me. There was an article in the Santa Maria Times today covering this, and it also just said, well, they're going to repeal this, and there was no mention of the possibility of litigation and the fact that a certain demographic may have felt that they were being picked on, or there was some evidence to be against these people, certain people. So I just don't want the public at large to think that we don't care, because I think we do care. As a council for the residents and people that have purchased their homes and have conditions that they're expecting to live under. And I think that's what Ms. Waterfield was getting at. And it just needs to be said that this is really not something that we strongly want to do. It's just part of our responsibility in protecting the fiduciary obligations that we might have to deal with in the future as a council and as a city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cordero. That was very well said. Madam Mayor, do you have any comments?
You know, I do. As Mr. Cordero was saying, we spent a lot of time, we spent months, we spent several meetings getting input from the community, getting input from the ag community, and coming up with something that we thought was real workable. And for the federal government to say we're being discriminatory really, really bothers me. They are overstretching their arm into our community, telling us how we can and can't house people and what we can and can't do with the consensus of our community. And I just think it's wrong. And don't forget, we're going to have to take diversity training.
Yes, we have to take sensitivity training. All the council members do.
We've got 5 of us with a Hispanic ethnicity, and we're going to have to do diversity training. But anyway, those are my comments.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Escobedo, do you have any comments?
Yes. During the last days, I've been watching, rewatching some of the videos and reading some articles about that time. And I still remember those meetings, huge, and a lot of them for a couple of months. And it's just, and I also have been receiving phone calls, emails, and communication from my constituents in regards to their concern about, you live in a neighborhood and you buy it for one reason, you want to grow your family, and then suddenly there's a lot of people just moving next door to you, and I understand they don't feel comfortable, and that's a little bit of what I receive, especially because it's a business. It's a business. The ag company are the ones that are doing business in the neighborhood in that sense. So I have a couple of questions. One would be, so you already answered the first one. If we had actually received any request from those special permits, we have not, right? Did I hear correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and in regards complaints, have we received complaints specifically for H2A houses?
Mayor Pro Tem and Councilman Escobedo, code enforcement could probably answer as well. On the community development side, not since the adoption of the ordinance, we haven't received complaints. We have not received complaints.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Cordero.
Thank you. Mr. Ng, some of the people that have these homes in the residential districts, they're paying an annual fee to have these homes, right?
Mayor Pro Tem Councilman Cordero, can you elaborate on?
Well, when there are still some of these homes that are being used in the city, correct? In the city limits?
Mayor Pro Tem Councilman Cordero, there were employee housing. There were some homes that were used for employee housing that obtained a ministerial permit, those that were kind of grandfathered in. So there's a one-page approval that they obtained that's ministerial, but in terms of the pertinent portions of the employee housing ordinance, the conditional use permit application, that has not been enforced.
Okay, what happens to the person that has someone using a home for that purpose now? What changes does that individual have to make, if any?
If they've obtained a ministerial permit, they can certainly continue to operate.
So so are you telling us that there's no change that they have to make at all? They can just keep right on going status quo?
There's no change.
Is that what?
There's no change for that operator.
No change at all, okay. I asked that question because I received a few phone calls. They say, what do we do now? And I said, well, I don't think you're gonna have to do anything. I think it's just what you just said. But I wanted to make sure that was the case, and I wasn't giving them some bad information. So I don't want anybody to get in trouble and say, well, Councilman Cordero said I can do this or not do this. So I'm kind of trying to protect myself, really. So I just want to make sure that that's the right answer for these people that we all thought we were doing the right thing for.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ng. I'd like to open the meeting up to public comment. Madam Mayor, or Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak or written correspondence?
Mayor Pro Tem and council members, staff received one written communication from Carmen Spoerer requesting that the employee housing ordinance previously adopted remain in place. And I believe we have at least one hand up, but I know someone else is also registered
Okay.
to speak. So I'll start with the first one who just has a telephone number, so I'm not sure who that person is. Go ahead, if you'll state your name, and you're free to unmute yourself. The person in our Zoom who has a telephone number posted and their hand up to speak, would you mind, go ahead?
Hi, yes, can you hear me?
Yes, now we can, thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Good evening, my name is Claire Wyman. I'm the president of the Grower Shipper Association of Santa Barbara and San Luis Obispo County. We appreciate the efforts of City Council and staff from the beginning of this process. We've all learned a lot and come together as a community to learn and grow. The association will continue to support and advocate for being good neighbors. We're proud to see that our commitment to being good neighbors and investing in the community continues and is reflected in where we are today. We look forward to continuing to serve our community and thank the council for your responsiveness and thoughtfulness on this issue. Thank you.
Claire? Claire, are you still there?
Claire, are you still
Yes.
present? Councilmember Cordero has a question.
Claire? Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
She may be struggling.
Well, let me just speak. Claire, if you can hear me, I had actually planned on calling you tomorrow. I thank you for being on the line. I hadn't talked to you yet, but certainly some of the questions that were coming about, I thought I would probably get from you. So I'm glad that you understand this and have heard us testify to it, and we look forward to continuing with a positive relationship with the farming community at the city council level.
Thank you, Mr. Cordero.
She was the only.
She was the
speaker,
only one?
yeah.
Okay. I'd like to close the public hearing and bring this item back to the council for any discussion and a motion.
So moved on the motion.
Just one moment, part of the discussion with Mr. Ng.
Yep, Mayor Pro Tem, as I was sitting, I had thought of a correction that I needed to make.
Okay,
Councilman Cordero, I shared with you regarding existing operators that had obtained a ministerial permit. The ministerial permit is part of the employee housing ordinance that is proposed to be repealed. So, which means that those provisions go away.
oh, wow.
The existing operators will be still subject to state and federal regulations. And I
Thank
wanted
you.
to make that clarification.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry for interrupting.
That's okay. I'm done.
We're done? Okay. Do
So moved on the motion unless somebody has anything else to say.
we have a second?
I think you can second.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Any discussion? The only discussion comment I want to make is that this ordinance worked. It was very useful. It helped very much. We had to use, we got spanked for using certain pronouns, which you do every day. But because of that, all of us up here, and plus the two that are absent, will have to take sensitivity training. And I'm just really sad for our constituents. And everything that Councilmember Cordero said, and Madam Mayor, I completely agree with them. And our hands are literally tied. With that, Madam Clerk. call roll.
Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Waterfield?
A very reluctant aye.
Councilmember Escobedo?
No.
And Madam Mayor Patino?
No.
So the item does not pass. Our next item, Madam Clerk, would you please read the title?
The City Council will receive a report regarding fireworks in the city of Santa Maria.
Staff report is to be made by City Attorney Mr. Watson.
Good evening, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, and the community at large. This item is before us, as usually happens in June. There is an abundance of enthusiasm, particularly post-COVID, for celebratory uses of pyrotechnics, also known as fireworks. And we regularly receive complaints from our community, both my code enforcement staff, the police department, fire department. We regularly get comments from members of the public of what can you do to improve the enforcement activities. As the council knows, but for the purpose that the community understands, only what's known as safe and sane fireworks are lawfully dischargeable in the city limits, and they are only lawfully dischargeable between the 28th of June and the 4th of July holiday at 11 p.m. As we put in the staff report, it is a violation of the municipal code to use anything other than those fireworks that are known as safe and sane. And it's for the health and safety of all of our residents, both from fires, from injuries, and it also for those of our most vulnerable who are sensitive to loud noises, are sensitive to light and flashes. We have veterans who particularly have sensitivity to loud noises. So we want to reiterate that we will be enforcing to the maximum extent of the law, and that will be used, as we set forth in the staff report, through a special group of our police department. I have the police chief here to answer questions. We also have fire chief to answer questions from council with regard to that. But again, we want to reinforce to the community, while we agree that with COVID, there is a pent-up desire to celebrate. We reiterate that we need to do that responsibly, and we need to do it within the confines of the law. So I'm happy at this point to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. If you don't mind, if Chief Snyder can come to the podium and just give us a status report of last year and the fines, how many those were, and how our police department did in regards to catching those that were using the illegal fireworks.
Sure. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Waterfield and council. Last year and code enforcement can maybe correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe we had about 28 citations, right around $28,000, I believe, in citations. This year, I think we project kind of doing the same thing that we've done years past, in that we'll put together some directed resources above and beyond the officers that are out in the field. So when we see and hear fireworks, those individuals, those teams can kind of go to those neighborhoods and do follow-up. And I know, the mayor spoke this morning on the radio, and there are challenges when the fireworks, we don't witness who actually fired off that firework, or there's not a citizen that's available or witnessed it themselves. It makes it more difficult for us to cite them, but at that point, what we do is confiscate the fireworks and ultimately turn them over to the fire department for destruction. So we are mindful of how it can disturb, like the city attorney said, some of the people in our community, so we'll make our best effort and go out there and enforce it to the best of our ability.
So we're really reaching out to the public for help, that they get involved, and they can do that by taking pictures or a video, and they stay anonymous. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe so. They can be anonymous, and I think we'll probably do some more like public service announcements here in the next couple of weeks, letting the public know how they can communicate with us. We normally do a hotline where someone can call in and provide information if there's things going on in their neighborhood or they've witnessed somebody selling them illegally, and we'll go out and do the follow-up on the police department's behalf.
Fantastic. Do we have any council members that have any questions for either the chief of police or the fire chief?
I have a comment. So one of the things that, one of the celebrations I really like about here in the U.S., it's the 4th of July, for what it means, but also for the celebration for all the colors. It's incredible, and that was one of the things that caught my eye since my family and we moved here to the U.S. And however, there's some, the lights. Everything looks good, but what I've been learning during this process is how much damage we can create to our neighbors when we're not aware of our actions. And I mean, sometimes we don't, we want to have fun, we want to throw some fireworks, explode it, and if it explodes pretty, it's really loud, it's the best. I mean, I was a kid down in Mexico. We used to play with really, now we didn't know back then they were dangerous, but they were pretty. And then we start seeing some of their friends setting on fire because they put it inside their pockets. So it was tough, and the damage, and I mean the damage that we create to to the people that have some health issues, the pets. So, and even the people that would just want to sleep. And I meant 4th of July is nice and having these activities during those days, but come on, March, February, people setting those fireworks in the morning, at 2 in the morning. That's just that's not good, and that's just disrespectful for our neighbors. So, and I know that it's something that the police department and the fire department and nobody in any government can manage unless the community. It's an educational issue. We sometimes don't want to pay attention to that part, and I would invite everybody who's watching us to be aware, be mindful of how our actions can affect the neighbors. And you guys have a huge challenge, and even to take a picture, to take a video, people just set one on fire in the next block and they just run, and how you can catch that. So I hope everybody who's watching us and just refrain from buying illegal fireworks, and if you want to have fun and having those nice fireworks, just do it during that time. Be mindful of everybody else.
Thank you, Mr. Cordero. Madam Mayor, do you have any comments?
None for me.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Cordero?
Yes, thank you. I think Mr. Watson mentioned several of the things that can go wrong, or things that do go wrong. I don't recall him saying anything tonight about the animals, but the animals that suffer from this also are very, very close to their owners. I sincerely hope that as the adults in the community that are lighting these things off, that no accident happens with them. I'm not an explosive expert, but I did witness one years ago while on a patrol shift, and the device exploded about 20 feet off the ground. If that were to happen with one of these that they're doing, I'm not sure what would happen. Maybe the fire chief would know more about it, or the police chief, but I would think if it didn't take someone's life, it could certainly severely damage that person's vision, or any number of things could happen. It's just a dangerous, dangerous thing. And I don't know what the quality control is on these things, but it is so, so dangerous. And they can spend their money and have a great time and support the nonprofit groups in the community and have a great time right there in their own driveway. They don't need to make all that noise. That's just, it's inconsiderate. And quite frankly, if you're doing that and you're listening to this, you're just a bad neighbor. We don't need that. And I ask you, on the name of the good people of this community, the city of Santa Maria, to not participate in it and to turn the people in that are participating in it. We just don't need it. It's not what the celebration is meant for. So please, refrain from utilizing the illegal fireworks. Dispose of them. I'm sure that if you turned them over to the fire department on your own, there wouldn't be any repercussions on that, would there? The fire chief is here, and he's indicating there would be none. So we don't need them. And I ask you as a person, as a neighbor, to not utilize these devices and upset the rest of the community. I've talked to several people already this year that are pleading, that are suffering from various forms of PTSD. Their animals are suffering. The older people are suffering. They're worried that something's going to happen. Please refrain from using these illegal fireworks. And you're taking away valuable resources from our law enforcement people that are off chasing sounds when they should be chasing criminals. So we thank you for your cooperation in advance. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Cordero. Very well said. Mr. Stillwell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. Just as a clarification, so the Safe and Sane fireworks are the ones permitted through the booth sales, and the sales are permitted from June 28th to July 4th, but the discharge of those fireworks are still only from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. on the day of July 4th.
Will the city be hosting a 4th of July event in the park?
Not with fireworks. We were unable, due to the COVID restrictions, we weren't able to enter into the agreement early enough in the year knowing what would be allowed. But we are trying to have some kind of simple events and community gatherings, things along that lines as our COVID restrictions abate.
Okay. You know what I was thinking as Mr. Cordero was talking about early disruption with the fireworks is I know we have a $1,000 fine for illegal. Why don't we do a pre-fine, raise that up to $2,000 and a post-fine and keep it at the same level, $2,000, and then the day of, you do the $1,000.
Any ordinance change, unfortunately, would not be effective timely between now and then. Even though we could bring it as an urgency item, but I wouldn't recommend that. I think we need, if we're going to do additional enforcement, we should probably do that in a reasoned basis with all of our council members available.
I think that's something we need to think about, just to get that done, and maybe take part of that money and use it as a reward for those who would like to reveal who the...
Maybe it's not even a community service. Mm-hmm. You know, the people that got a citation just go and be part of that, maybe clean. And I mean, I've seen all the mess that sometimes is left on the street. It's not I think it would be a good lesson to
Absolutely.
be added.
Madam Clerk, do we have any written correspondence or request to speak?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Waterfield and council members. Staff received one written communication from Carrie Oberly expressing frustration about fireworks in the city and requesting fines be higher. And I see no attendees with their hands raised or present to speak.
Well, then I'd like to thank city staff very much for bringing this report forward, and it has been received and will be filed. Our next item will be a report from City Manager, Mr. Stillwell.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Waterfield and council members. The next meeting of the City Council is June 15th, and two public hearings and a regular business item at this point. Also, a agenda item to propose canceling the July 6th council meeting due to the 4th of July holiday. And then the one public hearing is on the airport-specific plan amendment, which came to the council before and was continued, and so we plan to bring it back on June 15th. Also, a public hearing on the urban water management plan, and a regular business item for the mid-cycle budget amendments. And we'll also bring forward a COVID update. We haven't done one of those in a while, and the governor's proposed order changes the COVID restrictions on June 15th, and we'll apprise the council and the public of what that means for us and what city changes will occur.
Well, hopefully, will be mask-free. I was in Arizona over the weekend, and oh my gosh, just going into a Costco without a mask was a treat. It was great. It was just awesome. So hopefully California will follow suit. The next item is oral reports of council members, beginning with required reporting. Mr. Cordero, would you please start?
Thank you. The only thing I really want to report on is that I was present at the two memorial gatherings, one at the cemetery just yesterday and one at the Elks Rodeo Grounds. And both of them were very well attended and very well done, honoring the men and women that were not there.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Escobedo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. Last May the 19th, I attended the State of Education put on by the Santa Maria Valley Chamber of Commerce. And then on the May 20th, I attended the Salvation Army Board meeting. That's all I got. Thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, May 19th, I did the California City Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Fund with the U.S. Department of the Treasury. And on the 20th, I did SBK monthly board meeting and meeting in the afternoon. And that is it for me.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes tonight's council meeting, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you.